and visiting an old friendly location from the beginning of my Microsoft Flight Simulator 3.0 experience in 1988? Like this? No, not like this. How about a little bit more like this? Probably already guessed it, we're here in Chicago on Lake Michigan at a place from history's past. Identifier of Kilo Charlie Golf X-Ray, also known as Meigs Field. This iconic airport was closed back in 2003 from what I can gather, and was namesaked after a Merrill Church Meigs, who was credited for being a publisher, pilot, and journalist. I'll throw in the description box below the video some more information about the airport and the individual in case you're interested in some more history on the topic. But I want to say, even though it's now plowed over and defunct, this place will always hold a special place in my heart. So my passion for aviation simulation and flight in general began here in 1988 on Microsoft's Flight Simulator 3.0. And this is a special shout out to my computer class instructor in middle school, Mr. Miles. He was a credited private pilot and computer teacher, and at the end of every single class, he would allow us some free time to dabble with the games on the computer. And 3.0 Flight Simulator was the thing that I would always hop into. He taught us how to fly, he taught us how to dream, and he taught us how to be better people in general. So Mr. Miles, wherever you are, thank you for allowing me to be a better person. Anyways, you'd start out on runway 36 back then with a Cessna 172, and I figured what better way to do an introduction to this field again than with Coronado's Cessna 182 Turbo Skyline. So let's hop to the pilot in command position and get this show on the road for some brief pattern work. As always, thank you for joining me. Let's get started. Alright, and just like that, through the magic of editing, we're right at the end of the runway here, holding short, just about to perform that magneto check. So let's go ahead and close our window up since we don't want any excessive wind and noise going on there. And I'm going to go ahead and throw on our parking brake here and run this engine up. So let's check the magnetos if we should. Yeah? Yeah. Alright, operating temperatures and pressures look like they're in the green, so let's go ahead and bring a magneto off. And it looks as though that mag was functioning. Let's try the other one. And at this time it looks like we have two functioning magnetos. Both sets of spark plugs are firing, and they seem like they are firing strong. Fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this yoke real quick. We'll turn on our landing lights just for a little bit more illumination there. I'm going to throw on the standby fuel pump. And then I'm also going to come down here and make sure that everything is set. So we have our flaps open, and I'm going to make sure that we do have a range of flaps there for our takeoff position. And it's enunciating now that we have standby battery. So let's just verify that that is in the correct position. All right, indeed it is. And let's go ahead and call out to air traffic control. November 2250 Romeo at the hold, ready for takeoff, remain in pattern, runway 36. And of course, etc., we would expect a reply, you know, clear for takeoff, so on and so forth. And then we would just acknowledge that 50 Romeo, clear to remain in pattern. So, all right, let's go ahead and remove our parking brake and head out to the active. Although I am definitely not an air traffic control guru, that was one of the things when I was taking flying lessons that kind of perplexed me the most. The added anxiety of speaking to air traffic control. You don't want to be that guy fumbling the words, although a lot of the times I was, because everything seems to function so verbally smoothly with ATC that you don't want to be that one person, right, that's going da 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 da. So if there's any inconsistencies, I apologize, but then again, we are flying out of a field that no longer exists, so I guess we can just kind of make it up as we go. Anyways, beautiful city skyline there of Chicago. Let's go ahead and run this craft up to full power and grab some air. I've gone ahead and also checked to make sure that our trim tabs are in the proper position for takeoff. And just going to have to grab a whole lot of right rudder here because this aircraft does seem to provide a lot of torque, rotational forces. And just like that, we are off, climbing at a positive rate. And they're basically saying that, and I'll point out why in just a second here, but let me get things under control. Alright, coming back a little bit on the power and the RPM. I'm going to come to about 2200. And I'm going to make a right-hand turn. Now I remember making a left-hand turn for pattern work in Flight Simulator 3, but we're just going to stay over the water here. And that way we'll enjoy better scenery and clearer views of the sky here beyond the horizon, although we don't see very far with the clouds. So the pressing issue at hand is, why did they say we were not cleared for takeoff? That was essentially because since this airport is not in the registered database, minus downloading it for the Marketplace DLC in-game here, it thinks that we're at Midway, and so the air traffic control is out of Midway, and that's one of the reasons why I did the ATC communication, because you can't take off from Midway while you're at MiGs. And although Midway is not far from here, it kind of doesn't chronologically work with what we're doing today in the simulator. So that's why I was complaining, saying that I wasn't cleared for takeoff. And I'm just removing those flaps. Fly clean and as quick as possible here with as little drag as we can. Not going to wind up getting to too high of an altitude today, but I do want to clean up the aircraft so that way we can trim for level flight with hands off of the yoke. Let's just see if we can grab some external shots real quick, because it is a quick pattern here. And look at that view of the city of Chicago. You can even see the tall Sears Tower there. The waves on the Lake Michigan. Awesome. Truly cool. What a scenic setting for me in 1988 to open up the franchise and my passion for aviation. Alright, so I'm going to suspect that when we do indeed land at Meigs here, it's probably going to tell us as well that we were not cleared for landing. But as I had this basically decided we were just going to stay in the pattern, we would already be set up for pattern work and they would know that we would be coming back for a full stop. So let's go ahead and turn that base leg, chop the throttle quite a bit, and go ahead and turn the landing lights on, plus the fuel pump as well. And I'm just bringing back the power so that we can get to within the indicated airspeed white arch there. That is the flaps operating range. So we do not want to stress or overspeed the components on the aircraft. So we're just going to take our time with that. Seems quite hazy out here. I know the sun is quite low in the sky, but it kind of adds an awesome effect for the visibility here. Makes things a little bit more difficult to see, but it adds to the atmosphere, I feel. So, turning from base to a long final here, of course. And we're still at idle, so we're trying to get back a little bit of speed here, as indicated, so that we can bring the flaps out. And as always, thank you for joining me again. If you're enjoying the content, please consider subscribing. Throw in a like. So we're within range. We'll go ahead and throw in that first degree of flaps. And we're seeing on the indicator there that we are white over white, just to the left of the threshold on the runway, which means we are a little high. I'll go ahead and put in full flaps for this final approach here. And we'll correct our left and right path here. And it seems like there's a little bit of chop, a little bit of bump, but that's okay. Fairly windy, perhaps, especially with all this, I'm sure, wind off of Lake Michigan, and this clouded effect produces for some turbulent skies, but nothing the high wing 182 turbo can't handle, that's for sure. And I've always said before that I think it's better to carry a little bit of extra speed and altitude than to be too low and too slow. It's easier to make up for inaccuracies when you have extra energy to burn off and inertia momentum rather than too little. And there it is, runway 36, an iconic view on approach as well as departure. Alright, so with that, I'm going to clean the aircraft up and pull the flaps up. We never moved our engine cowl flaps, so they're still full open. And the one thing I like about the simulated effect on this aircraft is the spongy suspension. I like how it feels like the aircraft has weight, so when you're pushing on the left and the right brake pedals, you're feeling a little bit of suspension travel. Particularly, there's a higher amount than I'm used to on this aircraft as opposed to other ones, but I kind of like it. It gives a unique feeling of physics and simulation. Just my opinion, but I've held off a long time on picking up this aircraft. It is an older aircraft added to the sim. I think it was one of the original aircraft DLCs, if not the first in total. So it is awesome. And if you don't already have this, which I'm sure you do, I would definitely recommend picking this craft up. It is quite unique and a timeless classic for sure. So let's go ahead and we'll remove those strobes. We'll remove the landing lights. We'll go ahead and leave the nav and the beacon on for now. I'm going to pull the propeller knob all the way back and the mixture all the way back. So Engine's now spun down. Let's remove magneto power. We'll also throw on the parking brake. We'll go ahead, remove the navs, remove the beacon. Let's get rid of our standby battery. Avionics bus 2 off, bus 1 off, battery and alternator. So we'll reach down and turn our left and right fuel tanks off. Get the door open so that we can depart the aircraft and conclude this video. Hopefully you like what you saw today with the field and the information provided. This is just a shout out to Mr. Miles again for inspiring me to be a better person, as well as my viewers. Thank you for coming around and watching the video and throwing the likes. I'm trying to get to 50 subscribers. You also inspire me to make good content to the best of my abilities, so thank you again for being here. Hope you enjoyed the content, and as always, see you next video. Bye-bye.